I still remember the exact moment my phone lit up with that email. The Italian sun was warm on my skin as I sat at a small cafe in Florence, cappuccino in one hand, phone in the other. My heart nearly stopped when I read the subject line, termination of employment, effective immediately. My fingers trembled as I opened it. The words blurred together, but the message was clear. I was fired for professional abandonment during an active grant cycle. But that was impossible. I had my vacation approved in writing. I'd worked 16-hour days for 2 years straight. I'd built MindSpark's award-winning learning platform from scratch while my boss, Andrew Vail, took all the credit. "What's wrong?" asked Mia, my best friend, watching my face fall. "I just got fired," I whispered, the words hanging in the air like a bad dream. "By email, while I'm on approved vacation." I tried logging into my work accounts, but access was already cut. No warning, no chance to defend myself, nothing. My phone pinged again. Another email arrived, but this one wasn't from HR. It was from Dylan, a junior developer on my team, and it wasn't meant for me at all. The email was clearly sent to the wrong person. Dylan had meant to forward it to Andrew in legal, not to me, Sloane Bishop. The subject line read, FWD Final Compliance Scrub, Urgent. My finger hovered over the delete button. I didn't work for MindSpark anymore. This wasn't my problem, but something made me hesitate. Maybe it was the bitter taste of injustice still fresh in my mouth. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe it was the strange coincidence of this landing in my inbox right after being fired. I opened it. Attached was a PDF labeled Predictive Risk Scoring, Q1 Beta Trials. I didn't recognize this project. It wasn't something I'd worked on or approved. But as I began reading, my blood turned to ice. The document outlined a secret program using my AI learning platform, the one I had designed to help underserved students, to generate risk scores for kids based on things like response time, tone of voice, and eye movements captured through webcams. My hands began to shake as I scrolled further down. What I saw next made me almost drop my phone. At the bottom of the PDF was a partnership agreement with Celerity Edu, a company that provided educational services to juvenile detention centers. The truth hit me like a truck. MindSpark was using my creation to profile which kids might end up in prison someday. They were selling this data to companies in the correctional system. My stomach twisted in disgust. I had designed that platform to help kids learn, not to label them as future criminals. I thought of all those smiling faces in the pilot schools, those hopeful teachers, those proud parents. All of them had no idea their children were being secretly assessed. "Sloane?" Mia's voice seemed distant. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Worse," I whispered. "I've seen exactly why they fired me." I couldn't explain it all right there, but I knew one thing for certain. This wasn't a coincidence. They needed me gone before this project went live. I was the only one who would have recognized what they'd done to my code, how they'd twisted my creation into something sinister. They thought firing me would silence me. They were wrong. Back at our Airbnb, I pulled out my laptop. Though MindSpark had locked me out of their systems, I still had my personal backup of the original code. It was my habit, and now my salvation. Side by side, I compared my version with snippets Dylan had accidentally included in his email. The differences were shocking. They'd stripped away privacy protections, added tracking modules, created hidden data collection points. Every change had been made after I completed the official version, but before it went to schools. "This is illegal," I muttered, pacing the small room. "They're collecting data on minors without consent. They're profiling kids who can't even understand what that means." Mia watched me with worried eyes. "What are you going to do?" I stopped pacing. "I need more evidence." Though MindSpark had cut off my official access, they'd forgotten one thing. My personal Gmail account was still synced to company calendars because of an integration bug I'd never reported. I could still see meeting invites, attendee lists, and, most importantly, meeting recordings. My heart raced as I accessed the archive. There it was, Celerity Partnership Discussion, confidential. The video loaded slowly on the Airbnb's weak Wi-Fi. I watched as Andrew Vail, my former boss, stood at the head of the conference table, beaming with that $1 million smile that had charmed investors and school boards alike. "What we've built here is revolutionary," he said, gesturing to slides showing my work. Thanks to Sloane's framework, we can identify behavioral patterns that correlate with future outcomes. A man in an expensive suit nodded. And the schools have no idea about the secondary use case? Andrew smirked. They think it's just an advanced learning tool. The risk assessment data is extracted separately. They never see it, but Celerity Edu does. My stomach churned as he continued. We're calling it early intervention targeting, not predictive criminal profiling. Language matters in this space. The group laughed. Actually laughed. I closed my laptop feeling sick. I trusted Andrew. I believed in MindSpark's mission to help underserved kids. Instead, they were using my work to put targets on children's backs before they even had a chance to grow up. I grabbed my phone and texted Dylan. I saw the Celerity file. We need to talk. Dylan called me back within minutes, his voice a terrified whisper. Sloane, how did you get that file? They'll think I leaked it on purpose. Relax, I said. You forwarded it to the wrong Andrew. But now I need to know, how long has this been happening? He hesitated. 3 months, right after you finished the main platform. Andrew brought in a special team to add the tracking modules. We were told it was for enhanced learning metrics. And when did you learn the truth? Last week. That's when the Celerity contract came through. Some of us raised concerns, but his voice broke. They made us sign new NDAs. Legal said we could be sued for millions if we talked. Who else knows? I pressed. Just the core team. And now you. He paused. Sloane, they fired you because the grant proposal mentioned you as the principal architect. They couldn't risk you seeing the modified version once it went live. My suspicions confirmed. I asked the most important question. Dylan, would you be willing to help me expose this? His answer chilled me. They're already watching us. I think they know I called you. For the next 2 days, I barely slept. I pored over every piece of evidence I could gather remotely. Dylan had gone silent. His company's Slack showed him as a way. I feared he'd been caught or threatened into silence. I needed a plan. Blowing the whistle would mean taking on a billion-dollar company with fancy lawyers and powerful friends. I was just one person, a former middle school teacher turned programmer, now unemployed in a foreign country. But then I thought about those kids, my students years ago, the children now being labeled as high risk without their knowledge. Children who looked like my former students in the Bronx, mostly black and brown kids, already fighting an uphill battle. I opened my notebook and began organizing my evidence. The modified code-based screenshots, the Celerity partnership document, the recorded meeting where Andrew admitted the deception, Dylan's emails showing concerned employees being silenced. It wasn't just about my wrongful termination anymore. This was about stopping something truly evil before it ruined young lives. That night, I made 3 secure folders and sent them to 3 different people who could help. My first email went to Elena Reyes, an investigative reporter at the Chronicle of Higher Education, who had previously covered ethical concerns in edtech. I'd met her once at a conference where she'd asked tough questions about student privacy. The second went to Zachariah Jones, an attorney who specialized in education privacy law and had successfully sued tech companies for COPPA violations. His reputation for taking on corporate giants was legendary. The third went to Parents for Ethical Education, a grassroots organization that had been fighting against surveillance technologies in schools. I used an anonymous email service and included only the essential evidence, enough to show the problem was real without revealing my identity yet. I ended each message the same way. MindSpark is secretly using learning software to profile children for the prison industry. I have proof. More will follow. Then I created one final package, a mass email scheduled to go to every school district using MindSpark, set to send Monday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. The subject, what MindSpark isn't telling you about your students. The weekend passed in agonizing slowness. Mia tried to get me to enjoy our vacation, but my mind was elsewhere. I checked news sites hourly, wondering if my information had made an impact yet. Nothing. By Sunday night, doubt crept in. Had I been too cautious? Were my emails caught in spam filters? Would anyone care about yet another tech company exploiting user data? Then at 8:43 p.m., my phone lit up with a notification. The Chronicle had published an article. EdTech giant MindSpark under scrutiny for secret student profiling program. Elena Reyes had moved fast. The article mentioned an anonymous whistleblower and included screenshots of the celerity agreement. My heart raced as I scrolled through the comments already flooding in from horrified parents and educators. An hour later, I received an encrypted message from Zachariah Jones. "I'm preparing an emergency injunction. Need your testimony. Secure line tomorrow?" It was working. The truth was getting out. My phone pinged again, this time with a different kind of message. An unknown number texted, "We know it was you, Sloane." Big mistake. Monday morning arrived. At exactly 9 a.m., my scheduled mass email deployed to all 134 school districts using MindSpark. By 9:05, social media exploded. Parents posted screenshots with horrified comments. "They're scanning my child's face to predict if she'll be a criminal." Teachers shared their outrage. "We were told this was to help struggling students, not profile them." School administrators scrambled to respond, many announcing immediate suspension of the program pending investigation. By noon, 3 districts had already terminated their contracts with MindSpark. The company's stock plummeted 28% in a single morning. At 1 p.m., MindSpark issued a hasty statement. "These allegations mischaracterize our educational assessment tools. We are committed to student privacy and success." It was a weak response that answered nothing. Parents weren't buying it, teachers weren't buying it, and importantly, the press wasn't buying it. By 3 p.m., my phone buzzed constantly with updates. The story had reached national news. Parents were demanding answers. School boards called emergency meetings. And somewhere in Silicon Valley, I knew Andrew Vail was panicking. Tuesday brought a new wave of revelations. 2 MindSpark engineers who'd seen my evidence came forward with their own testimonies. They confirmed that student data was being channeled to Celerity Edu without proper consent or transparency. Parent groups organized protests outside MindSpark headquarters in San Francisco. News vans lined the street. Reporters shouted questions at employees entering the building. I watched it all unfold from my hotel room in Florence, alternating between news sites and secure calls with Zachariah Jones, who was now representing 7 school districts in a class action lawsuit. "They're trying to find out who leaked the documents," he told me. "They've got a team searching for digital fingerprints. Are you sure you covered your tracks?" "Yes," I assured him, thinking of the careful steps I'd taken to anonymize my communications. "How bad is it for them?" "Bad," he said grimly. "The FBI's cybercrime division just opened an investigation into potential violations of federal privacy laws. The Department of Education is involved too." I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and terror. I had started an avalanche. That evening, a new headline appeared. MindSpark COO Andrew Vail takes indefinite leave of absence. Wednesday was the day everything changed. A photo circulated on Twitter showing Andrew being escorted from MindSpark headquarters, carrying a box of personal items, security guards flanking him. The company released a terse statement. "Andrew Vail is no longer with MindSpark, effective immediately. We are cooperating fully with ongoing investigations." They were throwing him under the bus to save themselves. By afternoon, major investors were publicly distancing themselves from the company. Educational organizations issued statements condemning the secret profiling program. TechCrunch ran a damning piece titled, "The Dark Side of EdTech, How MindSpark Betrayed Student Trust." My vacation days were nearly over, but I wasn't sure what I'd be returning to. My career in EdTech might be finished. Who would hire a known whistleblower? Yet I couldn't bring myself to regret it. That evening, I received an email from a teacher in Detroit. "I don't know if you're the one who exposed MindSpark, but thank you. My students deserve better than to be profiled as future criminals." Reading those words, I felt a weight lift. Whatever came next, I had done the right thing. I flew home on Friday to a changed landscape. MindSpark's stock had fallen 62%. 15 school districts had canceled contracts. The company announced layoffs of 30% of its workforce. My apartment felt small and quiet after the chaos of the past week. I checked my email nervously, half expecting legal threats or worse. Instead, I found a message from Marissa Chen, CEO of TrueLearn, a smaller but respected edtech company. "I admire your courage. When you're ready to talk, I'd like to discuss your future." I wasn't ready to jump into another job yet. The betrayal was still raw, but I saved her contact information for later. That night, I ordered takeout and watched the news. A tech analyst described MindSpark's scandal as potentially fatal to the company. My phone pinged with a text from a number I recognized all too well. Andrew Vale. "You've destroyed everything. Happy now?" I didn't respond. There was nothing to say to someone who had used children's data as a commodity. Instead, I opened my laptop and began sketching ideas for something new. Something better. 3 weeks passed. The MindSpark scandal continued to unfold, with new revelations almost daily. Former employees came forward with stories of ethical corners cut, privacy concerns dismissed. I remained anonymous, though speculation ran wild. Tech forums debated the whistleblower's identity, with some correctly guessing it might be the mysteriously fired curriculum architect. I spent my days building a prototype for a new kind of learning platform, one with privacy at its core, one that would help kids without exploiting them. Then came a knock at my door. A courier delivered an envelope from Zachariah Jones's law firm. Inside was a letter requesting my official testimony in the class action suit against MindSpark. "Your anonymity can't last forever," the note read, "but your testimony could help make sure this never happens again." I knew he was right. Hiding wouldn't change anything. The truth needed a face and a voice. That evening, I called Zachariah and agreed to testify. "I'll need protection," I said. "We'll take care of you," he promised. "The truth is on your side." I hung up, feeling a strange sense of calm. The hardest part was yet to come. The deposition was scheduled for Monday morning. I spent the weekend preparing with Zachariah, reviewing evidence, practicing answers to tough questions. "They'll try to discredit you," he warned. "They'll say you were a disgruntled employee out for revenge." "I have the evidence," I replied, more confidently than I felt. "Evidence helps, but narrative wins," he said. "Remember why you did this, for the kids." When Monday arrived, I dressed simply in a navy blue blazer and white blouse. No flashy jewelry, no dramatic makeup, just a former teacher who loved her students enough to risk everything. The deposition room was cold and sterile. 5 attorneys from MindSpark sat across from me, their expressions varying from contempt to calculation. A video camera recorded everything. "Please state your name for the record," the lead attorney said. "Sloane Bishop," I replied, my voice surprisingly steady. "And you were employed by MindSpark until 3 weeks ago, correct?" "Until they fired me for taking approved vacation days," I clarified. "Yes, the battle had begun. For 6 grueling hours, MindSpark's attorneys tried to break me. They questioned my expertise. They suggested I misunderstood the technology. They implied I had stolen company property by keeping code backups. But I held firm, explaining precisely how my original design had been corrupted. I walked them through the evidence chronologically, keeping my cool even when they tried to provoke me. "Isn't it true," their lead attorney asked, "that you exposed confidential information because you were angry about being terminated?" I looked him directly in the eye. "I exposed illegal activity because it threatened children. My termination simply revealed the lengths your client would go to hide their actions." When it was over, I felt drained but undefeated. Zachariah squeezed my arm as we left. "You did beautifully," he whispered. Outside, reporters clustered at the building entrance. Someone had leaked that the mysterious whistleblower would be testifying today. I hesitated at the door, then decided, no more hiding. I walked out with my head high, directly into the camera lights. "Ms. Bishop, are you the one who exposed MindSpark?" "Yes," I said simply. "And I'd do it again." My face was everywhere the next day. News sites, morning shows, social media, all showing the quiet programmer who had taken down a tech giant. Interview requests flooded my inbox. Most I declined, but I agreed to one with Elena Reyes, whose initial article had helped break the story. "Why did you decide to come forward now?" she asked when we sat down together. "Because silence protects the wrong people," I replied. "The students deserved someone to speak for them." "What happens next for you? Your career in tech might be complicated now." I smiled slightly. "Actually, I've been building something new." I explained my vision. A learning platform with transparent code, no hidden tracking, no secret data collection. A tool that truly served students rather than exploiting them. "It sounds ideal," Elena said, "but how would you fund it without major investors who might push for the same profit-driven compromises?" I've been thinking about that, I admitted. Maybe it needs to be a non-profit. Maybe we need a different model entirely. The article ran the next day under the headline, Whistleblower's Next Chapter, Reimagining Ethical EdTech. A week after my interview with Elena, I received an unexpected email from Dr. Maya Rodriguez, director of the Educational Technology Ethics Foundation. Your story resonated with me, she wrote. I'd like to discuss a potential grant to develop your ethical learning platform. We met for coffee the following day. Dr. Rodriguez was a former teacher herself, with a fierce commitment to student privacy. We have a $1.5 million fund earmarked for ethical innovation in EdTech, she explained. I believe your project is exactly what we've been looking for. I nearly spilled my coffee. That's substantial. She smiled. The foundation was created by tech executives who grew concerned about the direction of the industry. They prefer to remain anonymous, but they want to support alternatives to the surveillance model that's become so common. It seemed too good to be true. What's the catch? No catch. The code stays open source. Student privacy remains paramount. Profit is not the goal. Impact is. I extended my hand across the table. Then I think we have a deal. That afternoon, I registered a new company, Lumen Education. Over the next 3 months, Lumen grew from a concept to a reality. I assembled a small team, 2 former MindSpark engineers who had quit in protest, a UX designer with special education experience, and a privacy lawyer to ensure we stayed true to our mission. We worked from a small office in a converted warehouse. No fancy Silicon Valley campus. No ping-pong tables or kombucha on tap. Just passionate people building something meaningful. Our first product focused on supporting neurodivergent learners, children with ADHD, autism, dyslexia, and other learning differences. The software adapted to each child's unique needs without collecting unnecessary data or making predictions about their future. As we prepared for our first beta test, I received a surprising email. Celerity Edu had been dropped as a contractor by 3 major juvenile detention systems following the MindSpark scandal. They were facing their own investigation for data misuse. It felt like justice. But I knew our work was just beginning. We needed to prove that ethical EdTech could succeed, not just morally, but practically. The day before our beta launch, I gave a short speech to our team. Tomorrow, we start changing what's possible. The beta test launched in 5 schools across the country, including my former middle school in the Bronx. 50 students with various learning needs would use Lumen for 6 weeks. I visited the Bronx classroom personally on launch day. Miss Torres, a veteran special education teacher, welcomed me warmly. The kids are excited, she said. They've been told it's software that listens to them, not judges them. I watched as her students logged in for the first time. A boy with severe ADHD, who usually couldn't sit still for more than a minute, engaged with the math module for nearly 20 minutes without interruption. A girl with dyslexia used the adaptive reading tools and finished her first complete paragraph independently. When she finished, she looked up with such pride that tears sprang to my eyes. It doesn't get mad when I'm slow, she told me seriously. At the end of the day, Miss Torres pulled me aside. Whatever you're doing differently, it's working. These kids have never engaged like this before. I smiled. We're not trying to fix them. We're meeting them where they are. As I left the school, my phone buzzed with a notification. TechCrunch had published an article comparing MindSpark's continuing collapse with promising newcomer Lumen. The 6-week beta test yielded results beyond our expectations. Student engagement increased 78%. Completion rates for assignments rose 64%. Teachers reported significant behavioral improvements as frustration levels decreased. Parents noticed too. One mother wrote, "For the first time, my son isn't afraid to make mistakes. He says the computer is nice to him." With these results, we secured additional funding from the foundation and several educational nonprofits. We kept our promise. No venture capital, no pressure to monetize student data. MindSpark, meanwhile, continued its downward spiral. They'd lost 75% of their school contracts. A federal investigation found multiple violations of COPPA and other privacy laws. They faced fines potentially reaching hundreds of millions. Andrew Vail had disappeared from public view, though rumors placed him in Europe, trying to start over. I received occasional messages from former colleagues still at MindSpark describing a toxic environment of blame and fear as the company imploded. I felt for the innocent employees caught in the crossfire, but the company's downfall was its own doing. Lumen scheduled a full launch for the fall semester, with 23 school districts already signed up. As summer ended and the new school year approached, Lumen prepared for our official launch. We'd moved to a slightly larger office and added 5 more team members, including 2 teachers who offered crucial classroom perspective. We maintained our core principles: no unnecessary data collection, no student profiling, no behavioral predictions. Just tools that help children learn in their own way. One August morning, I arrived at the office to find everyone gathered around a computer, expressions somewhere between shock and vindication. "What's happening?" I asked. "MindSpark filed for bankruptcy," our UX designer said. "It's official. They're done." The news was everywhere. After months of declining revenue, lawsuits, and regulatory fines, the once mighty edtech giant had collapsed. Their remaining assets would be sold off to pay creditors and legal settlements. I felt a complex mix of emotions: satisfaction that justice had been served, sadness for the good people who had lost jobs, and a renewed sense of responsibility to build something better from the ashes. That afternoon, I received a plain white envelope with no return address. Inside was a handwritten note. "You were right. I was wrong. I'm sorry." It wasn't signed, but I recognized Andrew's handwriting. Too little, too late. But at least he knew it. Our fall launch was covered by major education publications. Lumen the ethical alternative, one headline proclaimed. Another read, "After MindSpark's fall, a new approach to edtech rises." Enrollment exceeded our projections. Teachers reported high satisfaction rates. Students, especially those with learning differences, showed remarkable progress. In October, I was invited to speak at the National Education Technology Conference. 3 years earlier, Andrew had given the keynote at this same event, promising that MindSpark would revolutionize education for all students. Now I stood at the same podium, offering a different vision. Technology should serve students, not surveil them. I told the audience of educators and industry leaders. It should expand opportunities, not limit futures based on algorithmic predictions. I shared the story of Lumen's creation, the betrayal that sparked it, the principles that guided it, the results that validated it. When I finished, the audience rose in a standing ovation. Afterward, a line of teachers waited to speak with me. One grasped my hand with tears in her eyes. "Thank you for remembering what education is supposed to be about." That night, I called my parents to share the moment. "We're so proud of you," my mom said. "You always were our little fighter." Winter brought new milestones. Lumen expanded to over 100 school districts. We developed specialized modules for English language learners. Our team grew to 30 people, all committed to our mission of ethical edtech. The educational landscape was changing too. In the wake of the MindSpark scandal, legislators in several states introduced bills requiring transparent privacy practices in educational software. Parents demanded to know how their children's data was being used. School boards developed stricter vetting processes for technology vendors. In December, 1 year after that fateful email fired me from MindSpark, I visited a classroom in Ohio where every student used Lumen. The teacher, Mr. Rodriguez, pulled me aside during lunch. "There's something you should see," he said, leading me to his computer. He pulled up progress charts for his students. "This is Carlos. He has severe ADHD and was failing every subject in September." The line on the chart showed a steady upward trajectory. Yesterday, he got his first A ever on a science test. Mr. Rodriguez's voice cracked slightly. He told me it was the first time he didn't feel stupid while taking a test. I stood there, overwhelmed. This was why we had built Lumen. This was the vindication that truly mattered. Spring brought an unexpected letter. The Educational Technology Ethics Foundation was presenting me with their annual Innovation Award. The ceremony would be small, just industry leaders and educators who championed ethical practices. As I prepared my acceptance speech, I reflected on the journey, from being fired in Florence to building a company that was changing children's educational experiences, from exposing wrongdoing to creating something right. At the ceremony, I scanned the audience of teachers, technologists, and advocates. These were my people now. Not the Silicon Valley crowd chasing unicorn status, but people who measured success in student growth and well-being. A year ago, I lost a job but found a purpose, I began. I learned that the most powerful thing we can do is refuse to be complicit in harm, even when speaking up comes at a cost. I told them about Carlos getting his first A, about the girl with dyslexia reading independently, about teachers reporting renewed joy in their classrooms. The future of education technology isn't in surveillance or prediction, I concluded. It's in support and possibility. It's in remembering that behind every data point is a child with dreams that deserve protection. The applause washed over me like a wave, but it was the quieter moment afterward that meant more. When a teacher from Detroit approached me with tears in her eyes. "My students aren't statistics," she whispered. "Thank you for remembering that." I walked home that night under a canopy of stars, thinking about all the students using Lumen Path now. Children learning at their own pace without judgment or secret scoring. Children whose data wasn't being sold. Children whose futures remained wonderfully, hopefully unwritten. It had begun with an email that fired me for taking vacation days. It had ended with a new way forward. Sometimes justice comes from refusing to stay silent, and sometimes the best revenge is building something better from the ashes of betrayal.